A few weeks ago, when all of this started, I did a live and I uploaded some of my thoughts and my reflections of things that I thought people would need to take into consideration, ready for the weeks ahead. So those weeks have now happened, and we're now 3-4 weeks into this period of change, this transition period of not really knowing what's going on or how long it's going to go on for. But we're a couple of weeks in, and now there is an opportunity going into the weeks ahead of thinking about what we have learned so far. What have we learned about ourselves? What have we learned about people around us? What have we learned about how we're getting on with all of this? What's working for us? What isn't working for us? So there's an opportunity now to really reflect and think about active phase, how we've responded to the things that have been happening, and how we can review that now to be able to be more proactive in the weeks ahead. We know this is going on for potentially, potentially longer. So there is an opportunity now to think about what has been working, what we've learned, and to be able to put that into some planning, whether you want to sit down and plan it properly or whether you just want to give it some thought. There's some opportunity now to really think about this. We've been in reactive mode for the last couple of weeks. The changes have been happening quite frequently, but we've got this 3-week period ahead where we're probably going to be able to fall into some routine. We've got some idea of what has been working for us. We've got some idea of what we've tried that hasn't worked and what we've been able to keep trying and keep changing as time has gone on. So this whole period has given us a chance to really evaluate what is important to us in life, and whether that's been conscious consideration or whether it's been forced by the situation or situations that have happened. We have had this opportunity to think about what is important to us, what do we value in life, what needs do we have, whether it's psychological, physiological or emotional, what needs have we had that have been fulfilled, or maybe they haven't been fulfilled up until now, and that this situation has forced us to really see where the gaps are for us. Really seeing in the conversations that I'm having, people really evaluating what's important, but also how their needs are being met. So there's a real change in what's happening, but there's also a lot of reflection going on. There's a lot of life evaluation. I think anything like this makes us more aware of how long we may have and whether or not we feel we're making best use of the time that we've got. We don't know how much time we have, whether this is going on or not. And so, if we have only one life, are we making the best of the life that we've got? And I'm seeing a lot of people at the moment really reflecting on that because of the situation and because of what's going on. So we're becoming much more aware of what our life is like. We're evaluating what's important to us. Have we got what's important to us? What could we, should we, must we be doing? And there's a lot of media, social media in particular, that is forcing this conversation for a lot of people. But the answers are going to be very different for all of us. Our starting points would be very different, and our end point at the end of this will be very different as well. So be guided by the questions. Don't necessarily be guided by the answers that people may be pushing your way or maybe pushing onto your timelines at the moment. Excuse me. So we are much more aware of our emotions at the moment. We're in a very heightened state. We're being very aware of, or becoming very aware of, other people's emotions. People are talking lots more about how we feel about all of this. So we're talking a lot more than perhaps you may normally do. It's taking over the conversations a lot more than perhaps it would have done before. And we've got this things that we might have had that would have distracted us. So when we're not happy, when we're perhaps not in a place where we're particularly happy, we quite often have lots of distractions that help to keep us occupied, keep our mind occupied, keeps us busy. And some of these things have been removed, or they've been paused for a while because we can't do them because of social and physical distance. And when those distractions are removed, it gives us a lot more thinking time. And actually, we've probably spent more time potentially on our own to be giving this some thought as well. So with this extra time, and I know it's different for everybody, but potentially there is some extra time now for you. How are you seeing using this time? Are you resting more, relaxing more? Are you using this as an opportunity for time out? Are you using it as an opportunity to be able to work on something that you haven't had time or haven't been able to prioritize before? You know, where is this opportunity? Where are you using these opportunities to do things differently? We have, you know, this has been forced upon us. But within those boundaries, we have choices, we have options, we have opportunities. We have an opportunity to do things differently, and we do have our own choice within that to be able to choose how we do some of those things differently. So the opportunity here to reflect is on, what have you chosen to do differently? Is it something that you have wanted to do? Is it something that you have chosen to do, or have you found yourself falling into a routine that actually, if this goes on for another 3, 6, 9 weeks, maybe longer, is it how you want to be spending your time, or do you want to reflect and review that now to be able to do something different? So there is an opportunity here, and I will keep using the word opportunity, because where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And I think there are lots of opportunities here to look at what life is like for you, what has been important that you've noticed is not there for you at the moment because of what is going on, what is missing for you, what have you dropped into the needs that are most important. So if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, have you dropped right down to that bottom baseline of just meeting those physiological needs of eating, sleeping, and having your home and having yourselves to look after? Or are you a little bit further up within that hierarchy of actually looking after your psychological and emotional needs as well? A lot of people are going to have dropped right down to the bottom, especially in those first couple of weeks, and especially depending on your circumstance. So for some people, there will have been, well, for everybody, the impact has been very different. I haven't spoken to 2 people who have been impacted in the same way. So depending on what the impact has been for you will depend on where your focus has been, on whether you've just been trying to meet the basic needs, or whether you've been trying to keep those needs, other needs being met as well. And I think what is important is that life before, we would have met needs in a certain way. And it might be now that because of these changes and some of the restrictions that are in place, we can't meet our needs in this. What is important right now is to think about, how did you meet those needs before? What has changed that you can't now meet those needs in the same way, and how might you need to do things differently so that you can still meet those needs within the current restrictions? Now that gives you the opportunity to test and try different ways of being able to do that. But it's also an opportunity to reassess, what were you meeting before? Was it ever really that important? Or actually, were there other needs that weren't being met, or were being met in a different way, that actually now you want to reassess how you've been meeting those needs, reassess what was important, what is important, and what will be important in the future, and how you meet those needs from now onwards. There is lots of talk out there at the moment that there's this revival of community spirit, of reconnections with people, because people time to be able to reach out and connect with people. So there is that opportunity to be able to revive some of that. But actually, for some people, there's a real change. So dependent on whether you're introvert or extrovert is going to depend on how you're responding to this. So talking about introvert, extrovert in terms of how you energize, whether you energize with people or whether you energize on your own. So initially, there was lots of conversations around how this is ideal for introverts. Being physically distanced and being able to choose when you interact with people is great for introverts who are who like their own space, who need their own space to be able to reconnect and re-energize. However, what I am noticing as time goes on is there is this expectation for people to be connecting all of the time. There is this expectation that we need to reach out and we need to have conversations with people. And actually, some people don't want that all of the time. They don't need that on a daily basis. Some people do, and some people don't. So again, this is looking at now a couple of weeks into this, how are you responding to what is happening? How do you maybe need to adapt some of that to make it work for you in a better way? So there's the opportunity there to be able to reflect now on, again, on the last couple of weeks, those connections, that level of contact. Is it right for you? Do you need more or do you need less? And it will be different for different people. So yesterday I put a link to a blog post up. I'll put it again into the comments section as well for those of you who do want to read it. And in that, although it was talking, it's an old blog, goes back to 2018, but in that blog talking about how it is important to reflect your health and your, and from my point of view, and obviously the line of work that I'm in, that is my key area of focus, especially for people that I'm working with or people that I'm in contact with at the moment, is how they are monitoring and checking in on their health and well-being throughout this. So much of this is not within our control, it's not within our circle of influence, but certainly how we look after ourselves through this and how we look after our health and well-being, it is something that's in our control. So it is something that we can focus on. In the blog, talk about STAR, so Stop, Think, Act, Review. It's a model that I use for people that I work with. In particular, it's something that we use every week on Thrive. It's a good opportunity to stop, to think, to act, and then to continuously review. So this is what I'm encouraging this morning, is for you to stop, to take that pause and to reflect on the weeks that have gone past and to think about what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, where are your gaps, where is it that you aren't focusing attention that you would like to, and this is you would like to, not what your timeline says that you should be focusing on, what you should be doing, or what you should be doing. This is about you and what you want to focus on, what's important to you. So what do you know now that you didn't know 3 weeks ago? What do you know about yourself? What do you know about how you are responding to this? What you knew 3 weeks ago and what you know now, there is going to be a considerable difference. So just have a pause and a think about what do you know now? What do you know about the situation that you didn't know 3 weeks ago? What do you know about you that you didn't know 3 weeks ago? You know, we talk about adversity being a chance where we see what we're truly capable of. So what do you know about yourself now? What do you know that you're capable of now that you didn't know 3 weeks ago? So how many of you know now that you're capable of homeschooling at various levels? How many of you know now that you're capable of working from home, that actually working remotely has its positives or is something that works well for you? You know, what do you know now, either about the situation, about circumstance, or about you personally, your characteristic, your skills, your knowledge that you didn't know 3 weeks ago? So what can you do with that information? What can you do with what you know now? So 3 weeks ago, when all of this happened, and I did the Facebook Live then, talking about things for you to think about, things for you to take into consideration over the next couple of weeks. We talked about lots of different elements of things to your values, your needs, the space that you need, how you're going to look after yourself, how you're going to filter out social media and news channels, how you're going to be able to focus on positives, and how you're going to be able to move yourself and your family members through this. Now we're 3 weeks in with more time ahead of us. Now that you can use to plan those weeks ahead. So 3 weeks ago, we didn't know anything. In fact, we knew very little. Nobody knew anything. We all knew very little. So we were very much reactive. We were reacting to information that we were given as we were given it, and we were responding to that. Now we've got the opportunity to be more proactive, and we've got the opportunity to plan ahead for the next couple of weeks. So what do you know now, and what can you do with that information? What's worked well for you? What do you want more of? What have you been enjoying about the last 3 weeks? This is not a positive situation in its entirety, but there are positive elements to this situation. So focus on what you have been enjoying, what has worked well for you, what do you want to do more of in the next couple of weeks. And then focus on what didn't work so well. Where have been your points of frustration? Where have been your points that have been more emotional for you? What has happened in the last couple of weeks that has felt more negative? How did you respond to it? And actually, over the next couple of weeks, should it happen again, how would you want to respond differently the next time? So you've got an opportunity just to pause here and think, okay, what didn't work and what might I do differently should it happen again? And if you are at home and there are other people who are involved in this, have that conversation when you are not in that situation. Have that conversation when the emotions are not running high. Sit down and have that conversation now and say, look, if this happens again, this is what I want, or this is what I need from you, and this is what this is how I feel I would like to respond to it, or how I would like us to respond to it. What would you like? Talk it through now while the situation is calm, while you're not in that situation with those heightened emotional responses. It's a lot easier. So you've got that chance, an opportunity to be much more proactive. So what didn't work and what will you do differently? To have that conversation and talk through what you want to happen and how you would like to respond to it differently. So the other thing that the blog talks about is ABC, alternatives, behaviours and consequences. So when you're having this pause and you're having this review, think about what your alternatives are. What could you do differently? What different choices could you make? What might you like to try out over the next couple of weeks? So we have all probably reverted to what we know because we're responding, we're reactive. So we tend to go with what we've already tried before, what we know works. What do you want to try? Couple of weeks? Maybe there's something that you haven't ever tried before. Maybe you're seeing somebody else do something differently that you would like to give a go. So there are alternatives, there's an opportunity there for some different choices. What could you do differently over the next couple of weeks? And then behaviours. Think about the behaviours that you have shown over the last couple of weeks, what's worked well for you, which behaviours have worked really well, what behaviours will you continue to choose, or are there some behaviours in there that you have shown in the last couple of weeks that haven't worked well? It hasn't given you the response that you're looking for, so you might want to change. We will have reverted to behaviours, habits that we know. It's what we do. We go into the computer, we go with what we know, we revert to what we know has worked before. So that's fine. That's absolutely normal in that reactive situation, but use this opportunity now to review which ones of them did work, so you can tick the box and keep going with them, and which ones didn't work, so you know that these are things that you don't want to repeat, that you want to try something different. And then think about the consequences. So you've got alternatives, behaviours, and then consequences. So think about what the consequences may be for different behaviours. So when you look at the different alternatives and the different behaviours, what will the different outcomes, the different consequences be for those? So when we have the opportunity to sit and reflect and review and plan ahead, we have that time and we have that chance to be able to sit down and think things through, plan it out. So the last couple of weeks happened really quickly. You know, the lockdown came through quite quickly. The details of what that lockdown looked like weren't clear from the start. We had those daily updates of what we could, what we couldn't do, where those boundaries were. So we were all finding our feet with it for a couple of days into that first week. You know, what did homeschooling look like? What does working from home look like? What can we do? What can't we do? When can we go out? Who can we go out with? What circumstances can we go out? Can we leave the house? That took that first week. It took for us to really have that clear picture of what we were doing. So everybody was in that reactive mode. So now is the opportunity, a couple of weeks in, to sit, reflect and review and look at what you might want to plan ahead and where you might want to make some changes. So that's really what comes under STAR and ACT. So stop, think, act, review, and then alternatives, behaviours and consequences. So you've got the opportunity now to think ahead. knowing what you know now that you didn't know 3 weeks ago. That is the important thing. You will have learned a lot in the last couple of weeks. Use that information to help you over the next couple of weeks. So the other thing that is that I talked through in that blog is how you look after your emotional state, your focus, and some of those other things that will help you to look at how you respond to some of these things that are happening. So just because we've had these first couple of weeks, so 3-4 weeks in, we've still got a couple of weeks more, and then we've got that transition into what becomes the new normal at the end of this. So the chances are, and this is a very personal opinion, but the chances are we are not going to go back to how things were before. The normal that we knew before has gone. So whatever happens at the end of this, we have to shape a new normal. We have to find our way of what a new normal looks like. The world itself has had to respond, react, and make some decisions that will shape how things are done in the future. There are opportunities for you as an individual to look at what have you learned throughout all of this that you want to take into the future. And there's probably things in there that you've learned that you didn't like, that you want to leave behind, and that you want to be able to move certain things on into what becomes your new normal. Now, within that, you know, that can be quite unsettling for some people. That can be quite unsettling in not knowing. But again, think about the things that are within your control and within your influence in all of this. So you, to a certain extent, get to shape what your new normal looks like. You, to a certain extent, get to choose the things that you are learning about you now, the things that you are enjoying about this, that you look to see how you can bring this in to your new normal. So we do need to transition into what that looks like. And at the moment, I think it's probably too early to really know what that will look like for society or for the country that you are in. But as we get towards that, you will start to get more information about what that looks like. What does that look like for your work? What does that look like for your family? What does that look like for you as an individual? So within that, over the next couple of weeks, there are going to be certain things that will happen that are going to provoke quite strong emotional responses from you. And again, those emotional responses will be different for different people. When anything happens, we all have slightly different emotional responses. Fight, flight, freeze, all of those will be different for all of us in different circumstances. So how you respond to it, that emotional response, is going to be different for everybody. So something will happen and we will have slightly different responses. What's important is how we choose to use that emotional state, or to ask ourselves whether or not that emotional state, the emotional response, is helpful to us, and whether or not we want to hold on to that emotional response to become that emotional state. So as an example, if I see something in the news and I find that makes me then that's my emotional response. I then choose whether or not I want to stay angry. I don't choose what the emotional response is initially. That's unconscious responses. What I get to do is reflect on whether being angry is helpful to me in that situation, and whether or not I want to hold on to being angry, or whether I want to choose to feel in a different way. So it's really important over the next couple of weeks to make sure that you have things within your day that keep emptying that stress bucket, to keep your stress levels low. Think about what your emotional responses are, how long you hold on to them. Do you want them to be your emotional state, or do you want to choose to feel something different? And find ways that you can change that state. Music, dancing, go for a walk, go and exercise, phone a friend, whatever works for you to be able to change that emotional response and emotional state of something that works for you. Holding on to some of these emotions are not going to be helpful to you. And because for some of you, you're going to be in that closed environment, in with other people, that is going to impact the people around you as well. So it's not just about being considerate of your own emotional state and responses, it's about being considerate and of other people as well, and the fact that the people who you are in that close space with are going to respond differently. But it's how you all move through that so that it doesn't impact everybody in that house all day. Emotional state is going to be really important over the next few weeks. Now, within that, you can look at your focus as well. Where are you focusing things at the moment? One of the key themes that's coming up with speaking to people at the moment is where their focus is. Are they focusing on the problem, or are they focusing on solutions and what they are doing about it? Are you focusing on what's coming up, or are you focusing on what has gone on in the past? And that's really important too. So try and focus on what is in your control, what is in your circle of influence right now, and try and keep your focus there. There is a huge amount of things that are happening that are not in my control, and they're not in your control either. So we need to focus on what we can control. Focus on the daily decisions that we make that control and influence our own environment and our own situation, and focus on what's happening next. You know, people who are focusing on what they miss, on what they can't have at the moment, or what they had before that they can't have now, can influence a very negative mindset. The people who are focusing on staying present and focusing on what happens next are having a much more positive response and a much more positive mindset at the moment. So just ask yourself, are you focusing on the present? Are you focusing on the things that are in your control, or are you focusing on what you haven't got? So it can make a real difference. And I think what excuse me, what is impacting a lot of people at the moment is the meaning. And I don't mean anything bigger other than what this means to you. What is the meaning in all of this for you? So this will be a very individual response when you reflect on this. What this means to me and what this means to you will probably be two very different things. But what is this telling you? What is this teaching you? What are you learning in all of this? What are you learning about what's important to you? What's important to people around you? What are you learning about life at the moment? You know, really just take that time to stop and think about what is important. What does this all mean to you, and why is it important? Why are certain things at the moment certain responses? What does it mean? What's sitting in behind that? Of what is it telling you that's important? And also, who is important for you at the moment? Who is your phone a friend when you're having a bit of a rough time, or a day where you're finding all of this more difficult? And that will be the same. That will happen to all of us at some point. Even for those of us who are finding lots of positives within this, there are going to be days when the information or everything that's happening becomes too much, becomes overwhelming, or we notice so many differences about how we're living at the moment to how we lived before, and we don't know what it looks like in the future. That is going to have an impact on all of us. So what do you do when that happens? Who do you speak to? Who do you talk that through with? Or actually, even if you don't want to, you can just talk about something completely different. So, you know, just really help to switch your headspace from talking about all of this all of the time to talking about something different. Where do you switch your headspace out of that? So that's, you know, looking at what this means to you and who is important to you at this time. Also, just to look at just the small things that you can do at the moment. It's very easy to focus on all of these big things that we feel we could be doing. But actually, sometimes this is just about small actions, small things that we can do every day that help. So the 21-day wellbeing challenge at the moment is all about small things that you can do each and every day that help with your physical, mental, emotional health and well-being. We don't have to do these huge tasks it is just about showing up every day and being consistent in doing these things that help us to feel better. And when we feel better, we have more energy. And when we have more energy and we feel better, we respond better to things. So these are all small actions. There isn't anything big in there. I think probably the biggest task on there is, you know, some of the things like clearing out activities. There's nothing in there that costs money or anything more than some of your time, but it's small amounts of time that can have that big difference on how you feel. So think about the small things that you can do, and some days this is all going to feel too much, and the small things will be, that's okay. You know, it's okay to just do what you feel capable of doing that day. There's no badges or awards at the end of this of, you know, who's achieved the most in the lockdown period. You know, for most of us, and for many of us, it's about getting out of this the other end with a life that we want to live and health and well-being that is either maintained or improved. You know, that's for some people, out of this to get through this the other side with a shape of a life that we want to live and with our health and well-being intact. Some people, their goals are going to be much bigger, but this is very individual. What you started with, your starting point will be very different, so your ending point is going to be very different. So don't be distracted by what other people are doing. You know, if you're seeing people doing online courses and you're seeing people out running half marathons, or you're seeing people refurbishing houses, that's their choice. That's what they are choosing to do. That's what they are able to do. That doesn't mean that yours should be the same. Choose what works for you. So if that's rest and taking some time out and using this time for self-care and using this time to just completely drop down into first gear, that is absolutely fine, and don't let anybody or anything pressure you to do anything other than that if that's what you choose to do. As time goes on, you might want to drop and take it up a gear, but that's your. This is about, what do you want at the end of this? So when you reflect and review on this, have a think about, what do you want at the end of this? What do you want life to look like? What are you enjoying about this that you want to make sure stays when we transition into the new normal? What are you enjoying about the moment that you want to transition into the new normal? What do you need to do to help that to happen? What do you need to do to make that happen? And what do you need to have? The internal, external resources? Do you need support from other people to be able to do that? Is this something that you can do on your own with support from friends and family? Or is this something that you can do on your own, just full stop, on your own? So just really, really think about, what have you learned over the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks? What do you know now that you didn't know a month ago? And what can you do with that information? So that's your reflect and your review. And then moving forward, how can you use that information to plan the next 3-4 weeks, possibly longer? And what do you want? What do you want life to look like at the end of this? What are you learning at the moment that is helping to shape that vision of how you want life to be in the new normal, when that comes, whenever that might be? Whatever it is you're choosing to do today, enjoy, and stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you soon.